shout out to all the Bothans who died to wail on Mon Mothma. Thank you guys so much for coming by today. I got fantastic news to share with you guys. Larry's just shaking in his boots. This character, we're calling it right now. If you thought Geonosians were annoying on defense, this is going to be the new Geonosian annoying team. I have some ideas of how we can counter, but furthermore, the good news I want to share with you all, especially for the free-to-play players out there who aren't going to 7-star this character right away, this character has my 3-star viability stamp of approval. And then I'm using her at endgame type of stuff. You guys should as well, so long as you give the Zetas, we'll explain in a moment. But I'm going to move it even further. Besides being a 3-star viable character, which is a great gift to everyone at large out there because it's a marquee character, she is making low gear characters viable. My Cassian was gear 8, and he looks like he's a gear 13, gear 12 character, as I'll show you guys in a moment with some footage showing that. But furthermore, moving that even further, she took garbage characters and made them useful. Pow Zedong right here. It's a long story. If you didn't see the stream, card in the top right hand corner. Thank you guys for coming out as always. Those streams are always wild and so much fun. And we went from having a gear 1 level 1 Pow at the beginning of the stream. By the end of it, we relic 5 him, we got him to gear 13, and we even gave him the Zeta on his unique ability. And I have zero regrets, baby. And I'm hoping, this gets me excited, that the Empire will get a Mon Mothma like character, because I thought there was never going to be hope for Pow to be a useful character. There's a good chance that maybe we'll get some sort of Empire character that makes Gary, who was in Pow's situation, bad character, bad Zeta, and hopefully they become great overnight. I'm sorry, Gary, but it's true. Maybe there's a possibility that with not needing a rework on Stormtrooper, they can just add some character that makes them extremely viable, like how Pow did. But ignoring the fact that let's just maybe there's no Empire characters coming, we got to talk about Mon Mothma. We're going to talk about mods, what she's good at, and also Zetas. And let's actually talk about that first. You're going to want to give Alliance Chancellor Zeta first, but I want to showcase why you want the second Zeta. Usually, marquee characters, you don't always have to give them the second Zeta. Mon Mothma, you're definitely going to want both of them. Let's show some footage, Gary. Here's an example. It's a 3-star Mon Mothma, I believe, here. And the problem that we have is that without that unique ability, Zeta, this is our rebellion, she can get targeted. You don't want her being targeted. You don't want her being marked, because once she falls down, the whole team falls apart. The whole team revolves around Mon Mothma staying alive, and that kind of makes sense thematically, I think. So I want to put that out there. You're going to want both Zetas on this character, but in a moment, what I really want to show you is what happens with Mon Mothma and why she's viable at 3 stars, but further, why she makes low gear characters so viable. And this is going to be great for you guys there, because she's bringing a whole team to life all of a sudden. Watch, Cassian, gear 8. Look at this dude. In a moment, look at that. Look at that big boost and protection health. If you want, go back in time a little bit. You can see the before and after difference. Mon Mothma, this is why she's so viable at 3 stars. Generally, support characters are extremely viable at low stars because they're not focusing on damage. They're not focusing on anything of that sort. And plus, since Mon Mothma can't be targeted, that further amplifies her low star viability. But furthermore, on top of that, the reason why she's viable at 3 stars and the rest of her team is because her leader ability, Alliance Chancellor, just makes the team so god dang thick, baby. They have so much combined health and protection, offense, defense, potency, and tenacity. That's why Cassian looked like he was gear 14 or something absurd like that, because when you're taking 8% of the combined health and protection of things like Baze, Scarif, Rebel Pathfinder, Mon Mothma, and all these other high health and protection characters, you're making your low gear viable characters thick. Low star characters like Mon Mothma thick. So this is why she has my stamp of approval for low star viability. She can't be targeted. She's not focused on damage output, and she just basically boosts everyone's stats at once. She really reminds me of what Battlejuice did for the Jedi faction. If you guys remember the enlightenment that Battlejuice brought to the Jedi, she took low gear and also low viable characters and made him useful, slapped on a ton of extra max protection, gave him high tenacity, gave him crazy amounts of offense, and you're able to make things like Ayla, Sakura, and Ezra really come to life yet again. Mon Mothma is doing just that, and I kind of want to transition this into our conversation about all these different combinations of rebels that you can use with Mon Mothma, whether Rebel Fighter, which you definitely want to have a good majority of your team be Rebel Fighters, and also the Rebel faction, because this team, if I had to kind of guess where it's at, during my live stream, we're kind of looking for offensive viability, seeing what they're good on offense, but this might be a team where the dials cranked up way more on the defensive side. We haven't really gotten a team per se that was designed mostly for defense. I think this team with Mon Mothma and the Rebel Fighters is mostly going to be a defensive team. Now, that's not to say that this can't be an offensive team. I'm sure if you want to plug in things like Biggs and Wedge, I was limited on my testing because my Rebel faction isn't really all that geared up. That would be kind of against my religion here. At the Empire, I had some Rebels to test out with, but I'm sure if you put Wedge and Biggs, you can get a little bit more offensive on the team. But furthermore, some people like the C-3PO. C-3PO, from my testing, was kind of interesting. My problem is he is so much better with Commander Luke Skywalker, and Commander Luke Skywalker beats Gas and Darth Revan, and I'm not all that sure that C-3PO with Rebel Fighters are going to beat Gas and Darth, and so that's why I'm hesitant to give C-3PO to Mon Mothma. But if you're planning on, if you don't have CLS for some reason, Commander Luke Skywalker, or if you're not planning on using C-3PO with Commander Luke to counter a Gas or Darth Revan or something of that sort, maybe throw him with Mon Mothma, because C-3PO with his unique ability, he's allowing Rebels to apply exposes on their basic. And we haven't talked about the Alliance Chancellor Zeta. The Alliance Chancellor Zeta is why it's going to be the first one you're going to apply, because you're constantly calling assist anytime a Rebel fighter is using a turn, or Mon Mothma. It's very much like a Genosian team. This is a Genosian plus team. I think it's going to have more defensive viability than Genos, but if you have C-3PO in there, every time you're getting the assist or a counterattack, for example, you're applying exposes, and that helps you get more damage out there, be more annoying than you could possibly be. So it has the defensive viability, but it has the potential to get more offense, and that's why I bring out things like Biggs and Wedge, because those characters are more of the offensive Rebel fighters that you have in the faction that you can apply. So there's a lot of possibilities there. And furthermore, on top of that, you have ways to overcome the damage penalty, because yes, you're calling assist when you're using attacks through Mon Mothma's lead, but the problem is if it's an attack and you're calling an assist, you're getting a 90% damage reduction. That's a huge reduction in damage. And if it's a non-attack ability, calling assist like a cleanse, or as we'll talk about Pow when he's granting offense up to the team, it's a 45% damage penalty. There are ways to overcome that, and that's why C-3PO, for example, was helpful to overcome the damage penalties. But we're gonna hold Pow towards the end. Don't worry, I don't want to get too carried away. There's a couple of other standout characters that were really interesting I want to put out. Cara Dune, I want to point her out because people are starting to farm her right now. Hopefully maybe there's a Mando legendary, something of that sort down the road. She was never really, I couldn't find a home for her before. She was just the Rebel character. I think Mon Mothma might be her temporary home for the time being, because when she uses her basic, if there's a Rebel lead, which Mon Mothma is, she's going to taunt. So with a constant assist going on the team, she's going to have a constant taunt going on. And she's got a turn meter removal capability, which is nice, and anti-Empire stuff, because it looks like Darth Vader could possibly be a counter to the Rebel and Mon Mothma crew here. So you may having Cara Dune maybe try to land some stuns might be kind of helpful there. We'll talk about other counters in a moment here. So Cara Dune was kind of interesting. Chase, Trute, and Baze. We haven't heard those names in ages. They used to be so deadly way back in the day with Commander Luke Skywalker. This might be a home for them. As we know, Mon Mothma is scaling all these stats to crazy garbanzo beans. Not the opposite of garbanzo bean numbers, crazy high numbers. Well, Baze, for example, he amplifies his health even more. His unique ability, Dauntless Courage, it increases max health to 20% of his max health, and then he shares it with Trute anyway. And then they're both sharing the stats with the rest of the team. And Baze has a taunt. He's got the buff dispels. He's got buff flipping capabilities. And then there's things like 3PO and Chewie. 3POC, he has more the stats that scale. Besides the fact that Chewie's rage can blow away teams. We saw him blow away Geonosians, for example. I must tell the others his unique ability. He's also going to be gaining 40% of the leader's max health protection, offense, defense, potency, tenacity. And then Rebel allies are going to get half that amount. So there's crazy ways to amplify the stats of the team. R2D2's number crunch is another example of a way to amplify the stats of the rest of the team. There are just so many weird combinations. Mon Mothma, you're never going to be short of ideas to use with Mon Mothma. And this leads me to what I really want to talk about. Our current Lord and Savior, Pow. Pow Zedong. Holy cow. This guy probably saw the biggest change in viability I've ever seen in this game. He's not let's not get crazy. He's not like God tier broken in this game, but he just got so useful. I swear Mon Mothma was built around Pow, because Pow can help you overcome the damage penalties that are coming with the assist. He can keep spamming Sakala, his middle special ability, over and over again, granting offense up to the team, which allows you to put out more damage and reduce that damage penalty. And he gets 40% turn rate, but we gave him the Zeta, and he is meant for Mon Mothma. Every time Rebels are using basic attacks, which is basically all the time because they're assisting nonstop, you're getting several assists at once. He's gaining 5% turn meter with the Zeta, but furthermore, without the Zeta, he's reducing his cooldowns by 1 for each time Rebel basics are being used. So when he's taking a turn, he's 90% of the time going to be spamming Sakala, 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 and you're going to be seeing unlimited power, baby. Wow, it's just, I was kind of mind blown. At the beginning of the stream, I'm like, I'm not gearing up POW. And then once I started playing with Mon Mothma, I saw how crazy POW could be. He is going to be probably a staple character, if I had to say, for Mon Mothma. Now, I know that's kind of a steep Zeta and steep character to gear up, but keep in mind, with the stats being shared across the team, low gear characters are going to be viable. And who knows the grand scheme of this team is going to look like in the game, because I definitely think it's going to be a Geonosian style team where it's going to be very annoying to beat on defense, and because it's like the paint drying team. If you want, that's the one thing I kept saying, is I feel like I'm watching paint dry. It's not an exciting team per se on offense. I was kind of clawing my eyes out during some battles because they took so long. If you're someone that likes to watch paint dry, if you're a paint drying connoisseur, you join a paint drying club, Mon Mothma is the perfect character out there, because they're so slow and they put out so little damage, but they're just so annoying and durable to deal with. So that's where I'm thinking Mon Mothma is kind of lying in the game right now. Is a very good defensive viable character. Offensive wise, I'm feeling Night Sister, Bounty Hunter type of viability out of this team. So it's definitely one of those middle of the rung plus type of teams, but I'm definitely thinking you're going to want to have this team on defense. I could definitely see this character being used a ton in Grand Arena, Territory Wars. On defense, be on the lookout. I remember when Geonosians first came out, they were very popular on defense, but there are going to be some ways to beat her. I think Darth Vader is going to be an obvious counter. A lot of juiced up stats because of a lot of rebels on this team. And Darth Treya, with all the constant assists going on, the buffs, I'm assuming Darth Treya is going to be a counter like Geonosians, but it might spread you thin. If you have Mon Mothma and Geos, you got to decide where you want to use your Darth Treya. So it kind of puts you in a tough predicament, but overall, solid defensive team, has a lot of potential for offensive use if you want to kind of mix in C-3PO and whatnot in there. It's going to be I'm not looking forward to battling this team with the wrong team, if you know what I mean. I do have a few complaints I want to put out there before we wrap up this video. Firstly, the speed. Slow character. Before the unique ability kicks in a mod, she's like at 111 speed. Granted, this gives her an extra 50 speed, which is nice, but I recommend you're going to throw in some speed sets on her, make her a little bit faster, and then try to stay away from damage primaries. Protection, health is going to be the way to go for, or defense if you want. Remember, she shares that with the rest of the team, and this is going to be helpful for her 3-star viability as well. And the other complaint I have is this probably ties in with her being a bit slow. It sucks that she does not spawn a Rebel Trooper at the beginning like the Geonosian Brood Alpha or the ARC Trooper, because you have to use this at the beginning, and it feels like a wasted turn, and you gotta wait to finally get that extra trooper in there. I wish you would start off with the trooper right away, so that way you can promote him right away. I'd actually trade in getting the spawn right away at the beginning and putting this on a cooldown before you can use it again, in case they don't want you getting a rebel officer or commander too quickly. I think we're gonna see more field promotion and the rebel trooper be useful in the PvE stuff. Geonosis territories, which we don't have one for light side right now, and maybe galactic challenges in the future. So I see a lot of PvE viability. We'll definitely see that and test it out when the time comes. Overall, man, it's cool to see just the whole faction wake up. All these characters right here, they just got used in a good way. They got viability, and there's a couple of things that I didn't really talk about because I don't have all these guys geared up, but keep your eyes peeled. I'm almost tempted to gear up Rebel Scout because look, 25% Terminator gain on the basic. Yikes, with the constant assist going on. Yeah, granted, it's a 40% chance, but when you're getting so many opportunities to do it, this could be deadly as well. I'm surprised they didn't nerf this ability, because they nerfed Scareful Pathfinder's basic, because Scareful Pathfinder had a 100% chance to grant Terminator on the basic. Maybe they're not nerfing this because it's only got a 40% chance to gain 25% Terminator. But the point being is, keep your eyes peeled. Every single one of these rebels has some sort of degree of viability to be used with Mon Mothma. If POW can be useful, I'm almost certain Bodhi Rookham, the Hoth Rebel Scouts are. And the only downside is this is a faction that not a lot of people had geared up because they were pretty bad. But the good thing is you can kind of pick and choose what you like. I'm a fan of POW. I'm a fan of all these guys. Lando was probably the least impressive, but you know, I still found use out of him. So find the rebels that you like the most, gear them up, and Rebel fighters and Mon Mothma, well, as you're gearing up, they're going to have boosted stats. They're going to share the stats with one another. This team really does reward you. The more you relic and gear up, the beefier and more defensively viable the character gets, and the team itself. So that's going to wrap it up for today. All of my paint drying connoisseurs, this is the team for you. I'm going to be clawing my eyeballs when I fight this team, most likely. Bring in the right teams for this. It's going to be annoying. It's going to be deadly on defense. And more importantly, I'm just happy for the fact that we have another character viable at low stars for all to enjoy. Like if you did enjoy the video, comment down below on all your thoughts. And what do we say, boys? Be sure to subscribe so you're not missing a thing. And we'll see all you lovely people in the next video. All right, Larry or Gary, whatever you want to do. Roll out the outro. Larry, you want to do it? You want to, Larry? Yeah, okay, all right, do it.